Right now I am walking a narrow wooden boardwalk that floats out across a wild bog, on an island in the middle of the largest freshwater lake on Earth. This is Madeline Island, out in Lake Superior, off the northern tip of Wisconsin. Pines lean in on every side, the air smells like warm sap and cool water, and the only sound is the boards under my feet. It looks like a peaceful little nature trail. It is also one of the most sacred places on this continent. Come walk it with me, and I will tell you the story. Madeline Island lies at the far southwestern corner of Lake Superior, the last and largest of the 22 Apostle Islands. Long before any map used the name Madeline, the Anishinaabe, the people often called the Ojibwe or the Chippewa, knew this place as Mooningwanekaaning, the place abundant with the yellow-shafted flicker, the golden-breasted woodpecker whose call once rang through these woods. For hundreds of years, this modest island was the spiritual center of the entire Lake Superior Ojibwe nation, a gathering place, a capital, and a home. The Ojibwe did not always live here. Their oral history tells of a great migration that began far to the east, on the shores of the Atlantic, near the mouth of the St. Lawrence River. A prophecy told the people to travel west until they reached the place where food grows on the water. That journey unfolded across many generations, following the chain of the Great Lakes, pausing at sacred stopping places along the way. The final stopping place, the end of that long road, was this island here in Lake Superior. The food that grows on the water was manumin, wild rice, standing tall in the shallow bays and marshes of this coast. Finding it meant the prophecy was fulfilled and the long journey was complete. Around Mooningwanekaaning, the people built a lasting community, harvesting rice from canoes in the autumn, fishing the cold, clear water, and tapping the maples in spring. The island was never just a place to live. It was the promised destination of a migration that had lasted many lifetimes. Back on the boardwalk, it is easy to feel why this ground mattered. The trail threads between black spruce and tamarack over a floating mat of sphagnum moss and low shrubs. This is a true northern bog, wet and spongy and slow to change. Every plank was laid to protect it, because a single footstep off the path can crush growth that took decades to form. So we stay on the wood, and the bog stays wild, very much as it has been for thousands of years. Look closely, and this bog reveals its strangeness. The ground here is not really soil, but a deep, waterlogged carpet of sphagnum moss, so acidic and so starved of nutrients that only specialists can survive in it. Stunted tamarack, leathery little shrubs, and down in the wettest hollows, carnivorous plants. Pitcher plants and sundews that trap and slowly digest insects to win the nourishment the ground cannot give them. It is a quiet, patient, faintly alien world, thousands of years in the making, and this boardwalk lets us cross it without leaving a single mark. By the late 1600s, a new kind of visitor reached this shore. French fur traders and voyageurs paddled their birchbark canoes into these bays, drawn by beaver pelts bound for the markets of Europe. On the west side of the island, they built a trading post called Pointe. For nearly 200 years, La Pointe was one of the most important fur trade centers on all of the Great Lakes, a meeting point of Ojibwe families, French traders, and later the American Fur Company. The island owes its English name to this era. A fur trader named Mitchell Cadott married an Ojibwe woman named Ikwesu, the daughter of Chief White Crane of the Crane clan. At her baptism, she took the name Madeline. She became a powerful figure in the life of La Pointe, and by her father's wish the island itself came to carry her name. So Madeline Island honors a woman of two worlds, Ojibwe by birth and central to the community that held this shore. The boardwalk lifts now onto higher, drier ground, and the forest changes with it. Tall red and white pines rise straight overhead, their trunks glowing warm in the afternoon light, the floor beneath them soft with fallen needles. This is the sand spit forest, rooted in old dune sand carried here by the lake itself. It feels ancient and open and calm, a cathedral of pines, with the sound of Lake Superior somewhere just beyond the trees. This peace did not last untroubled. In the 1800s, the United States pressed to remove the Ojibwe from their homelands. Here at La Pointe, a leader named Quechuashk, known as Chief Buffalo, resisted. In 1852, already in his 80s, he traveled all the way to Washington to plead his people's case. 2 years later, the Treaty of La Pointe of 1854 secured permanent reservations in the region, including Bad River and Red Cliff, where the descendants of this community still live today. It would be wrong to speak of all this only in the past tense. Madeline Island is still a living Ojibwe place. Descendants of this community return and gather here. The old name Mooningwanekaaning has been raised again on markers and bilingual signs across the island, and the treaty writes that Chief Buffalo fought for, to hunt, to fish, and to gather wild rice are still exercised across this region today. Walking here, you are not visiting a ruin. You are moving through a homeland that never stopped being home. Around Madeline lie the rest of the Apostle Islands, 22 of them scattered across the lake, most of them wild and uninhabited. In 1970, President Nixon signed them into the Apostle Islands National Lakeshore, protecting their forests, cliffs, and old lighthouses. Madeline Island alone was left out, because Madeline alone is still lived on, still home to the town of La Pointe. It remains the one island of the group where people stay all year round, reached by ferry across the water. That soft red sandstone once set off a boom. In the 1880s and 90s, quarries opened on the neighboring Apostle Islands, cutting massive blocks of brownstone and loading them onto schooners bound for the growing cities of the Midwest. Stone from this bay went into courthouses and churches and grand commercial blocks in Milwaukee, Chicago, Minneapolis, and St. Paul. Then, after the financial panic of 1893, tastes changed and the demand collapsed. Within a few years, the island quarries fell silent, and the forest quietly began to take them back. Through gaps in the pines you can just catch it now, a bright line of blue where the forest ends and Lake Superior begins. It is hard to overstate this lake. Superior is the largest freshwater lake on Earth by surface area, big enough to hold a small sea, cold and deep and astonishingly clear. Everything on this island, the bog, the spit, the very soil under this boardwalk, was shaped by that immense body of water, working patiently over almost unimaginable spans of time. The stone beneath these islands is nearly beyond imagining in age. It is Bayfield sandstone, laid down in the late Precambrian, roughly 1 billion years ago, when this region sat over a great rift that was slowly tearing the continent apart. That warm red rock is the same stone once quarried nearby and shipped east to build entire city streets, the brownstone of an earlier age. Along other shores in these islands, the waves have carved it into arches and sea caves, a slow masterpiece written in stone. And this exact spot has its own quiet marvel. Over thousands of years, currents in the lake pushed sand into a long, low spit across the mouth of Big Bay, sealing off a lagoon behind it. In the calm water and wet ground that formed, a rare bog took hold, ringed by dunes and old-growth forest. The whole system, beach, lagoon, and bog, is now protected as a state natural area, a living record of how a great lake quietly builds and shelters new land. In summer, a ferry carries you here across the open water, but winter transforms everything. When the channel between Bayfield and the island freezes hard enough, crews mark a route across the ice with a line of old Christmas trees and open the Madeline Island Ice Road, the only ice road that appears on the official state map. When the ice is too thin to trust, a strange craft called a windsail takes over, a covered airboat that skims across ice and open water alike. For the people of Pointe, the lake is a road, a wall, and a season all at once. The boardwalk opens up here, and you can see the design of it all at once. On one side, the reedy still water of the lagoon. On the other, low heath and grasses running out toward the dunes and the beach beyond. A simple bench sits at the edge, an invitation to just stop and listen. Dragonflies hang over the water, the pines stand watch behind, and for a moment the whole long history of this island feels folded quietly into a single view. Nearer the shore, the air cools and sharpens, and you can sense the immense lake just beyond the trees. Lake Superior is astonishingly clear and astonishingly cold, holding roughly 1/10 of all the fresh surface water on the planet. Its beaches here are made of pale, wave-polished sand, and its water stays icy even at the height of summer. Standing at the edge of this bog, caught between the still lagoon and the open lake, you feel just how completely this island belongs to the water that surrounds it. Then it is time to turn back, and the trail leads us home the way we came, back over the floating bog and into the shade of the woods. Walking Madeline Island, it is impossible not to feel the layers underfoot. 1 billion years of stone, thousands of years of shifting sand, and centuries of a people who followed a prophecy across a continent to reach this exact shore, and who called it the end of a long journey and the beginning of a home. Places like this are why I keep walking the trails of the world, to stand where the land itself still remembers and to carry a little of that memory back with me. If this walk across Madeline Island moved you the way it moved me, follow along and let us keep exploring these places together, one trail at a time.